Welcome back to the Home and Life Design Summit Season 3, where we are meeting with amazing intuitive leaders and entrepreneurs discussing what it means to embody art and beauty to create more joy in your life. I am your host, Fallon Jordan. I am so honored and happy to have my friend and colleague, Larry Salvatoriello, here. Thank you so much for being here, Larry.
Thank you, Fallon. Every single time, even though I know you say my last name, I always wonder if someone's going to miss say it somehow.
So fun, and I may or may not have been practicing.
Oh, may or may not. That's great.
It's fun to say. And Larry's full bio is below, but just to give you a little bit more information about him, he is the founder and former president of Arcus, a Salesforce consulting firm. He is founder and executive coach at Three Stand Sports and Entertainment, which is fantastic if you know anyone who is in the professional athletic world. And Larry's also an executive coach, and he is certified by the Czech Institute. Angie Czech is in the summit with us, just to give you a little context. He is licensed by the Czech Institute, as well as an Amen Clinic certified brain health professional. And he brings his expertise in sales management, productivity, life and career coaching, and holistic life sciences. And like many of our speakers, he has the beautiful, wonderful story of, kind of doing a lot of big stuff in corporate, especially in marketing, and then starting to go on this spiritual path and just doing some really beautiful things for the planet. So thank you for saying yes to your calling.
Thank you for all those kind words. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's funny. You were talking about art and beauty, and you just very elegantly described a lot of things that I accomplished. And I think that, maybe is kind of my answer to art and beauty, right? Which is, we're all artists regardless, right? And we're not, we don't need to have a paintbrush or, you know, clay to make something. Like, it's every little thing that we do, we are in a creative process, right? And I think at the end of the day, the stories that we tell about ourselves, whether someone else is telling someone else's story or you're saying it yourself, I think that one of the things that we all have to try to strive for is to find the beauty in all of our stories and make sure that that's being shared out to everyone, right? I think it's a very easy thing to do in life, that you can get caught in negativity, and that just is not something that that's going to serve you in a positive way, right? And no matter how hard you've dealt with anything in your life, whatever has been created in your life experience is going to it's going to help you in some way, shape, or form, right? We're here for a reason. So I just found it interesting as you just kind of described it, and you're talking about art and beauty. It's like, wow, you just put a smile on my face just hearing the things I did. And it was just me living my life, right? And just doing the things that kind of called to me.
Absolutely. And what is one of those like moments where you decided to kind of make a bigger shift? Like you took a big leap, you made a quantum leap. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that's actually an easy one for me. Through I think trials and tribulations in my earlier parts of my life, like, just no reason to go into particulars on it for this conversation. I think I came to a moment where I needed to go find help for myself, and that led me actually down the path of actually needing therapy, and actually end up taking an SSRI to help myself kind of get out of the rut. But that's not actually the moment. The moment was once I found, I guess, an equilibrium where I was able to kind of be more aware. I had a moment, and this was like right before the financial crisis in 2008. I was working a very good job, had family, wife. I think my second child was on the way, and I had what was called the American dream. Right. And I was sitting at my desk in Queens after commuting for close to 2+ hours, which I had to do every single day, one direction. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I speak about this more now, about we all need to be more curious, and we need to start asking why, and dig into the things that we're told or taught. But I think at that moment, I think I had like my first kind of come to God of your choice moment, where it was uh, everyone told me that if I were to put the metrics in front of me of what I've gotten to and accomplished at that time in life, I had it made. Mm-hmm. And it sure as hell didn't feel that way. Right. So in that moment, I was like, something needs to change. Right. And I had no idea what that was going to be. Right. Or what could be created out of that energy that I was kind of living in that moment. But it was then that I had this, moment of awareness that I knew that if I kept going down the path that I was going, I probably would have lots of regrets. And so I knew it had to change. And that actually sparked the journey to creating Arcus, the first company I created. And, it changed me, the story from that moment till now, as you so elegantly put it, makes it sound like it was, kind of done, woohoo, easy peasy, and it wasn't, right? It took a lot. It took a lot of effort. It took a lot of pain and relative suffering at certain levels to get to this moment, but it definitely put me on the right trajectory. It allowed me to move and live life more from curiosity perspective than I ever was at that moment. I think that might have been the moment where I did shift, where I became more curious about life. And the more curious about life that you are, I think the more good things happen for you. Yeah, that's definitely the time.
I love that. That's amazing. So how would you say your relationship with joy has shifted and changed? Like the things that maybe brought you joy previously versus how you embody that now in your everyday life?
I think joy is something that is more than just a identifiable emotion. It's kind of hard to explain. I think it's feeling content and connected to the world in a really really good way, maybe, I guess. I think before, I think joy would like be very highs and lows, right? You'd be like really, really happy, and you'd be like, oh, I'm so happy, because something happens, right? It was whatever the case might be, right? Or maybe I just ate too much sugar that day. I don't know. But I think what I realized is that, those kind of highs, right? And people with different mental states and patterns experience those in different ways. I think also came with this like roller coaster. It was like, at least for me, like my joys were like almost like adrenaline driven, at least it seemed, right? And then it always seemed to like would come crashing down into something else. And it's like my brain would be going from one direction to the next, and how I would feel about that. I never got to a place of like oneness,
Mm.
right? And I think over time, as I started paying more attention to um my experiences and my thoughts, right? And just for everyone, like, my number one thing in any kind of coaching that I do is around awareness, right? It's around self-awareness, internal, and then also the external environment. And that will just lead to everything else in life. So, that's why meditation, I think, is so important, all stuff like that. So I think when I started going down then maybe like a meditative journey and started taking a step back and starting to feel my body, like really truly feel it, really truly feel my experiences, I think I started to see that joy had more of a subtlety to it than this like exhilaration, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. That makes total sense. So
Yeah.
what would you say to somebody who is like resonating with the roller coaster feeling? And like many of our speakers is discussing like this feeling of joy just kind of being like a consistent thing when you are staying aware. Like what's something you would say to them if they're in that kind of that in-between place?
I think it's I think it's about documenting it and being more aware of what those are, right? And really start to see what that is. I mean, sometimes we get tricked by things that you think are joyful, but it really isn't. It might just be an addiction to sugar or something, right? I mean, you can get, I know me personally, it's like I will, if I'm like really stressed, I'll get like yearning for something sweet or sugary or whatever, right? And I actually will feel like excitement about it, right? Like I actually will be in a joyous mood. It's like, oh, I'm gonna have this whatever, right? I like cheese and crackers, so it's like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go have that after a day, and whatnot. And I think that to each person, it's bespoke to them. But I think that paying more attention to it, writing it down, seeing your patterns, right? I think it will have more insight into what it is, right? And I think a lot of times those highs sometimes are um, being trying to offset the lows, right? I think, you know what I mean? Like, I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to find balance, right? And that's why joy is subtle and consistent, because that's a state of balance, right? It's a state of harmony, right? And so I think that you can have exhilarating moments. I mean, listen, let's be real, right? You go, if you're a fisherman, you go catch a shark or something like that, and it's like, oh my god, it's so exciting, right? But to me, it's like that high now settles into your equilibrium and now is a part of you, and it keeps your vibrancy up, right? Now it's like after that moment happened, now you're just living and you're vibrant, right? You're energetically vibrant and you're moving forward. That's a good, like, exhilarating moment. And I wouldn't call that, it's hot, that's a high moment, but it's not the consistent thing. So if you're having the moments that are like, oh my god, this exhilarating thing that I just did, I think pay attention to what happens like 20 or 30 minutes after the fact, right? And that, to me, I think is a good awareness moment, right? Because if you go catch your metaphorical shark or whatever, right, is your excitement of things to do or like to do, 20, 30 minutes later, like, are you down in dumps? Are you feeling, happy with the choice that maybe you made or that experience? Or was it something that might have just been trying to offset and take from some other part of this, right? And that's part of, like, my Check Institute training is like, the different areas of us sometimes will steal from other parts of us. Our well-being will need to balance each other out. So, we may, be completely, our emotional body might be so distraught that we might need to go eat food to try to balance that out, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's really about that awareness and doing it. And just like a lot of people struggle with food too, and I think it's worth pointing out with that, because people find joy in food, and I find joy in food. I think and what I've always been taught is see how you feel 20 minutes after you eat. It's actually an indication to see how you react to food, right? So I think having that moment, maybe a little delayed view of it, I think will start to really indicate and help you with the choices that you make on a day-to-day basis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I love what you said. I don't know which word you used, but basically like marking. I was kind of immediately going to like journaling or like tracking, one of those words of how you feel with certain things. And I just wanted to share that again with everyone who's listening, because that's what's so important. Like, you know, you better than you. And when you start tuning in and feeling aware, like you definitely need to hold yourself accountable. And like the easiest way to do that is just checking in with what you're doing every day and how it's affecting you.
Yeah, and it's those it's those moments that don't necessarily stand out that end up being the consistency and you finding joy, right? It's not the exhilarating moments, right? You know, it's not the, oh, this vacation was amazing, which is 1 week out of a, 365-day year, right? It's all about the day to day, right? It's the journey, it's every step that you take, it's your environment, all of those things. If you pay more close attention to them, you'll start to see how your environment can be great. And then more often than not, I think a lot of people, like, I think they find more joy in the planning of where they're going to go than they actually get when they're there.
Yeah, that's a big topic. We should do a
Right.
podcast about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the idea of something versus um the actual experience of something, right? Because I think we're always constantly planning for the future or dwelling on the past, and we're never living in the present, right? And um when those moments pop up, which are amazing and they are filled with lots of joy, right? You may not be getting as much out of it as you probably could have if you were able to get yourself to a better space, right? And I think it comes into that unfortunate, what can be a chore or a tedious thing to do on a day-to-day basis, but that's why we need to stay um you know committed to ourselves and our well-being, and um set proper goals for achievement, and then find discipline in all of that, right? And be able to do the day-to-day things so that we can make a better version of ourselves every single day, right? And it's possible, right? Every little thing, every little new point of awareness, adds a new thing for us, right? I firmly believe that acknowledgement and actually being able to identify a pain, a trauma, or something can just heal, like, instantaneously,
Yeah.
right? So just think, like, having more awareness and all of a sudden being able to identify something with your mind um, might completely change you physiologically in a matter of a moment, right? And that's pretty exciting to think about, right? In the grand scheme of it all.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I wanted to go back to one of the things you said because it really stood out to me about the commitment and then joy. And I was just thinking, it sounds like you're committed to joy in your life. And I just think that's a really beautiful thing if you wanted to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my philosophy, and maybe it'll be a book one day, is about the ABCs of life, right? I said at the beginning, I said it's about awareness, right? Is number one. And then, we're all looking to try to find balance. There's your B. And then, then it's commitment, right? And your commitment to yourself and well-being, right? Committed to being well, right? So that's joy. Like joy and well is like they're the same words as far as I'm concerned, right? So whatever that means for you, right? Doesn't mean you have to be a marathon runner. Doesn't mean you have to work out. Doesn't mean none of that. It's about treating yourself well. Um, your relationships, right, with your environment and the people, and this is all just through your commitment. And then lastly, just staying committed to being curious. Like, I really just think it's that simple. It's like, if you just keep that discipline to stay committed to those three things, you have the playbook to navigate life, right? I really do. Because at the end of the day, every single person thinks differently, they feel differently, they have a different environment, like everything changes, right? It's constantly through their eyes and experience is different than mine. So I can't sit here and tell you that this is what you should do. What I think, and what I've always wanted to be able to tell my children, is here are some kind of guidelines to kind of live by that I found useful. Just some things that can give you something to expand on. That doesn't give you the answer, but it gives you something to do to get you to find the answer. You know what I mean? And I think finding commitment in that, I think is all it takes, right? It's not hard, you know. And then at the end of the day, I also think too, I had a hard time kind of finalizing my approach, and something hit me for those Ted Lasso fans out there. Competition, I think, is something that is lacking from our lives, and I think it's very important. And I don't mean competition that I need to go fight against someone, right? I think that if you're rooted in your commitment to your relationships and your well-being and your curiosity, you'll never compete in a negative way. You'll compete in a positive way, right? And competition with whatever it is, competition with yourself to try to do better, right? If you're an athlete, like do one more, score X goals, do whatever the case might be. Trying to achieve anything in a well-being way, right? Like I'm currently right now really like dedicated to my cryo stuff and not. So it's like, I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna try to do 40 something degrees for like 16 minutes today instead of 15 minutes and see how it goes. Like, but to me, it's just that sense of competitiveness to want to do good, and then kind of merge that with discipline in life, and you can accomplish anything. Because at the end of the day, we're lazy, right? And our choices will make us even more lazy, or will help with motivation. But you still have to find that willpower, and that's where I think competition comes into our life.
Yeah, for sure. It's so important. And especially like when I was thinking of the C's, it's like committing to curiosity in cryotherapy.
Right. Well, that's where it starts, right? It's like there's a reason that it made it interesting to me to do it. And I also delayed actually doing the actual baths. Like I would do 10-minute showers and I would do the cold like that way, but I didn't want to get cold. And so I avoided it. And so finally I was like, no, you know what? Like I need to see what kind of dopamine release will happen if I get in the cold. I need to see if, what are the benefits of this? Like I believe it. There's something missing. And it was like, well, now I created a little competition for myself. And I went after it. And now I'm almost 2 months into it, and I love it. I actually love it. I actually look forward to going in because I know that when I get out, I'm going to feel amazing.
That's good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, the cold shower stage, but you've inspired me. Maybe I'll do it.
And I'll tell you what, so my philosophy is always crawl, walk, run, right? So, because my ADHD never read, I hated reading. I would sometimes have to read a page 3 or 4 times before I could comprehend it. Other people I know can read a 100-page book in like 6 minutes. Like, like they can blast through and they can regurgitate things pretty quickly. I can't do that. And so I always hated reading. And when I started my first business, I learned that, the top people in the world, top owners of businesses, executives, athletes, they're constantly learning, they're reading, they're studying. And I was like, oh man, I have a long way to catch up. But I needed to put something into my life that was not going to overwhelm me, and allow me to start to see and build momentum. And so I set a 5-page a day rule, right? That was my set goal. That was my competition. And then I had to stay disciplined to keep doing that, to see where it would take me to get to, I wanted 25 books in a year or something like that. And I'm like 15 years in and I haven't missed a day, So with cryo, I started with back in, I think, October of last year. I would go outside every single morning. I was doing Tai Chi in just a pair of shorts. And as it got colder, I kept that same routine. And I would go out there, I would do my Tai Chi, I would kind of set some intentions for the day. And you're getting 30-degree weather, and that's cold. And so I'd be chilly, it'd be chilly to the point I almost wanted to put gloves on because of how chilly it was. But then that led to me saying, okay, I'm definitely doing the cold plunge. Did it more in the summertime because it's easier with the outside temperature to do it. And now I'm locked in. So now my view is I get through the summer and then it starts getting colder. I'll have a nice I'll have a very nice pattern that where I'm not gonna, when it's 30 degrees out, now I'm gonna step in 32-degree water and really freeze my buns off. I'm gonna be more likely to do it, than as if I was like, oh yeah, I got this, no problem kind of thing.
That's amazing. So inspirational and so grateful that you shared multiple examples of how you can set some goals for yourself and work on it a little bit at a time.
Yes, that's all part of the creative process to create joy and beauty.
Yay. So I know you have an amazing free gift. Would you like to share what it is?
Yeah, I one of my biggest passions is helping people, so I love getting an opportunity to connect and just help people like find their way and maybe give them a sounding board moment. So, if people are interested in connecting and wanting to see what I have to offer, I'm more than happy to offer out a half-hour free session with me, just to meet, and also just to see if there's a little bit of nugget of help that I can give to you know help in this journey of life that we're all on together.
That is so generous and beautiful. Thank you. And if you didn't listen heavily or read the bio, Larry has over 20 years of coaching and marketing experience. So this is a really, really generous offer. And you can claim it by just clicking the link below and emailing him to schedule that 30-minute consult. That's so generous and wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. You are like the one always got to remind me to, like, tell my history and experience and
I know.
stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is great. But yeah, I mean, I've been coaching for a good while now, from the start of the company, coaching myself to start, and then all in all, it's been a fun journey, and it's what I love to do. So
Yay. Well, I'm so grateful for that. And again, you guys can just email Larry by clicking below and getting that scheduled and getting into his super fun, beautiful world. But I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for all of your insight.
feeling is mutual. Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Absolutely. And thank you everyone for listening. And we will see you in the next conversation. Bye for now.